You know what people never admit in public? That they talk to themselves, not occasionally, constantly, in the car alone, walking to the kitchen, working through a problem out loud, narrating what they're doing while they're doing it, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet, replaying ones that already have, and the moment someone walks in, instant silence, sudden embarrassment, like they just got caught doing something strange. But here's what nobody tells you about people who can't stop talking to themselves. Science has been studying this for decades, and what it found completely reframes everything you thought it meant about you. Go back with me for a moment. You're a child. Something happened at school today. Something confusing, something unfair. You're walking home alone, and without even deciding to, you start talking, not to anyone, just out loud, working it through, saying what you should have said, figuring out what it meant, your own voice filling the quiet space around you. It felt natural. It felt necessary, like your brain needed to hear itself think. Nobody taught you to do that. Nobody told you it was useful. You just did it. Because something in your mind instinctively understood that speaking out loud and thinking silently are not the same thing. That the voice outside your head could solve things the voice inside couldn't. You were right, and science just spent 50 years proving it. Psychologists call it private speech, and here is what the research actually shows. When you talk to yourself out loud, your brain doesn't treat it as internal monologue. It treats it as external information. Your own voice activates the same neural processing pathways as hearing someone else speak, which means when you talk yourself through a problem, your brain is genuinely receiving new input, not recycling the same internal loop, actually processing it differently, more completely, more thoroughly. Researcher Gary Lupien at the University of Wisconsin ran a series of experiments testing this directly. Participants who talked themselves through tasks out loud found what they were looking for significantly faster than those who searched in silence. Not slightly faster, significantly. Because the act of speaking the words activated visual and cognitive processing simultaneously. Your voice wasn't interrupting your thinking, it was completing it. But there's something even more interesting. Psychologists studying high-performance athletes, surgeons, and chess grandmasters found one behavior appearing consistently across all of them. They all talk to themselves, not occasionally, as a deliberate cognitive tool, before a difficult moment, during high-pressure decisions, after something went wrong, and the specific way they talked to themselves mattered enormously. Research led by Ethan Kross at the University of Michigan discovered something that changed how psychologists understand self-talk entirely. People who referred to themselves in third person during self-talk, using their own name instead of I, performed measurably better under pressure, made clearer decisions, recovered faster from failure, managed anxiety more effectively. Because using your own name creates psychological distance. Your brain shifts from being inside the problem to observing it, from participant to advisor, from overwhelmed to analytical. LeBron James famously used this. During one of the most criticized decisions of his career, he described his thinking process publicly, referring to himself by name throughout. Not ego. Cognitive strategy. The same one your brain discovered instinctively as a child walking home from school. If you've ever caught yourself talking through a decision out loud, and then made a better decision than you would have made in silence, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. There's one more layer, the one that explains why you specifically can't stop. People who talk to themselves constantly share a specific cognitive profile, high internal verbal activity, meaning their thinking naturally takes the form of language rather than pure imagery or feeling. Their mind generates words automatically as it processes experience. Talking out loud is simply that internal verbal stream finding its natural output. It's not a quirk. It's not a nervous habit. It's a cognitive style. And research consistently links high internal verbal activity to stronger reading comprehension, better memory consolidation, and more nuanced emotional processing. Your brain thinks in words. Talking out loud is just thinking with the volume up. Here is what nobody tells you about the people who can't stop talking to themselves. They are almost always the people everyone else comes to when they need to think something through, because the same mind that narrates its own experience out loud has spent years developing the language to describe complex internal states, the nuance, the precision, the ability to find the exact right word for something most people can only gesture at. You didn't develop that by accident. You developed it because you never stopped practicing. Every conversation you had with yourself, every problem you talked through in an empty room, every moment you heard your own voice working something out was practice for the conversations that actually mattered, with other people, in the moments they needed someone who could find the words. You never talked to yourself because something was wrong with you. You talked to yourself because your brain found the most efficient tool available and used it constantly, without apology. The embarrassment you felt when someone walked in, the sudden silence, the quick explanation, none of that was necessary. You weren't doing something strange. You were doing something sophisticated, something science had to spend decades catching up to explain. Your voice in an empty room wasn't loneliness. It was your mind at full capacity, working exactly the way it was built to work. Loud, precise, unstoppable. And that's not something to hide when someone walks in. That's something to understand about yourself. Finally, before you go, I want to ask you one thing. What do you most often talk yourself through out loud? Decisions, emotions, problems, replaying conversations? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.